My best friend Alex disappeared a year ago. The police gave up. His family held a memorial. Everyone just told me to move on, but I couldn't. Some stubborn, desperate piece of me refused to let him go. Tonight I found him. He's alive, but he's the unwilling star of a live-streamed game on the dark web. A game where strangers pay to watch him suffer. And if he loses, he dies. This is how I went to the darkest corner of the internet to save my friend, and how I lost pieces of myself along the way. It's funny, the things you remember. When someone gets ripped out of your life, your brain just clings to the most random details. For me, it's the smell of burnt coffee and rain hitting the window. That's what our last conversation was. It was a Tuesday. Alex was supposed to come over. We were going to binge watch some terrible sci-fi show and order pizza, our ritual for the last 10 years. He and I weren't just friends, we were constants. The brother I chose. He was the one who sat with me for hours in the hospital waiting room when my dad had his heart scare. I was the one who helped him practice that cringy proposal to his high school girlfriend. We saw each other through everything. He was a brilliant, scattered, and deeply paranoid guy. His day job was low-level cybersecurity, but his real passion was puzzles. Ciphers, ARGs, digital scavenger hunts. He lived for that stuff. He saw patterns in everything. Used to say the whole world was just one big escape room if you knew where to look. That Tuesday, he called, his voice choppy. "Hey, running late," he said. Something came up. The line was staticky, with this weird rhythmic clicking I'd never heard before. I teased him, asked if he'd finally been abducted by aliens, an old joke between us. He didn't laugh. After a shaky breath, he said, "Listen, if I'm not there in an hour, remember the Blackwood cipher." Before I could even ask what he meant, the line went dead. The Blackwood cipher wasn't some spy code. It was the name we'd given a stupidly hard puzzle in a video game we obsessed over as teens. It took us a whole summer to solve it. I just figured it was another one of his weird, cryptic jokes. An hour passed. Then 2. I called his phone, voicemail. I drove to his apartment, and the first alarm bell went off. The door was unlocked. Alex was meticulous about locking his door. Inside, everything looked normal. Laptop on the coffee table, keys in the bowl by the door, a half-eaten sandwich on the counter. It was like he'd just stepped out for a second. But he never came back. The police were called. They filed a report, asked all the usual questions. Was he depressed? Did he have enemies? A drug problem? The answer was no to all of it. They saw a 26-year-old with a steady job and no drama. To them, it looked like he just walked away. An adult has the right to disappear, they said. After a few weeks, the case went cold. His family, shattered, eventually held a memorial. A funeral without a body. A goodbye without closure. I stood there, feeling sick, like I was the only person who knew, who felt, in my bones, that he was still out there and that he hadn't left by choice. They were all mourning a memory. I was still looking for a person. That first year without Alex was a slow slide into madness. I became a ghost haunting his life. I had passwords to his old accounts, not because I hacked them, but because he'd given them to me years ago, just in case. His paranoia had become my inheritance. Night after night, I scrolled through his digital footprint. I read every email, every chat log, every dumb comment he'd ever left on some forum about retro gaming or cryptography. I was looking for a single breadcrumb. My own life was falling apart. I was late for work, and then I just stopped going. Friends would call, I'd make an excuse. How was I supposed to go for a beer when Alex was somewhere? The world had moved on, but I was stuck in that last phone call, turning his words over and over. Remember the Blackwood cipher. It couldn't be meaningless. Alex didn't do meaningless. It had to be a key. I dug out the old console, found the game, and got to the puzzle. The solution was a long, nonsensical string of characters I'd written down and taped inside the game case, a monument to our victory. I typed it into a search engine. Nothing. I tried it as a password. Nothing. For months, it was my mantra. I'd type it, rearrange it, look for anagrams. I was losing my mind, chasing a puzzle from a decade ago. Then one night, deep into a pot of coffee, staring at that string of characters, I saw something. The length. The structure. It wasn't random. It had the precise format of something I'd read about on those same cybersecurity forums Alex used to visit. It looked like a web address. Not a normal one, though. This one ended in onion. That's when the floor dropped out from under me. I knew what that was. I'd heard the stories, the urban legends, the dark web, a hidden anonymous corner of the internet, accessible only with special software like the Tor browser. A place for criminals and hackers. A place Alex had always warned me about, even as he was fascinated by it. He'd said people who went poking around in the wrong places sometimes didn't come back. My hands were shaking as I downloaded the Tor browser. It felt like crossing a line I could never uncross. Every instinct screamed at me to stop. But that phrase, "Remember the Blackwood cipher," was a hook in my soul. It wasn't a memory of a game. It was a map. He'd left me a map, and it led straight into the dark. Launching Tor felt less like opening a program and more like opening a forbidden door. The interface was stark, with warnings about security that didn't help my nerves. It was agonizingly slow. I copied and pasted the cipher's solution into the address bar and hesitated, my finger hovering over the enter key. This was it. The point of no return. I thought about Alex, his face, his laugh. I hit enter. The screen went black. I thought it was a dead end, another failure. My shoulders slumped. Maybe I really was crazy, my grief just creating patterns where none existed. Then, white text appeared on the black screen. Cold, simple, and terrifying. The panopticon sees all. Prove your worth. Below it, a single input box. No hints, just a blinking cursor, waiting. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't a dead end. It was another lock. Alex, you paranoid son of a bitch. Of course, it was another lock. I tried every password I could think of. His mother's maiden name, his first pet, our old inside jokes. Access denied. Access denied. I spent 2 days staring at that screen, trying to think like him. Where would he hide a key? It couldn't be obvious. It had to be something only I could find. I went back to his cloud storage, digging again. This time, I wasn't just reading. I was analyzing. I downloaded every photo he'd ever taken and started running forensic software, looking at the metadata, the hidden info embedded in every digital file. And there it was, in a blurry photo of a sunset he'd sent me 3 years ago. A photo I'd almost deleted a dozen times. Embedded in the XIF data, where the camera model should be, was a line of text. A quote from a rare book on ciphers he had forced me to read one summer. The key is not the word, but the space it leaves behind. It was so perfectly Alex. Obscure, poetic, and infuriatingly clever. Below the quote was another cipher key. It took me another full day of frantic work with decryption software, my hands shaking so badly I could barely type. Finally, the characters resolved into a single word: exhibit. I went back to the panopticon's ominous black screen. In the input box, I typed it. Exhibit. I hit enter. The screen changed. The cold text was replaced by a clean, minimalist site that looked disturbingly professional, like a high-end art gallery's website. There were 3 links: live exhibits, archived exhibits, patron forum. Nausea washed over me. Exhibit, like something in a zoo. My hand trembled as I clicked on archived exhibits. The archives page was a grid of video thumbnails, dozens of them. Each showed a person, alone in a stark white room. Their faces were blurred, their bodies gaunt. The titles were clinical strings of numbers and letters: E734A, E8112C. It was a catalog of human misery. I scrolled down, my breath catching with every flick of the mouse. I didn't want to see his face. I prayed I wouldn't. But I had to know. And then I saw it. The thumbnail was labeled E921B. The face was blurred, but I didn't need to see it. I knew that posture. The way he held his shoulders when he was scared, the shape of his hands, the way his dark hair fell. It was Alex. The world just stopped. For a whole year, I had held on to this fragile hope. Seeing him there, in that cold digital grid, shattered it. He hadn't run away. He was taken. He was an exhibit. With a click that felt like a betrayal, I opened the video. The blur vanished. It was him, but not the him I knew. He was thin, his face hollowed out by fear. The vibrant eyes I knew were replaced by a haunted emptiness. He was just sitting on a stool in that white room. The video was silent, dated 6 months ago. He just sat there. For hours. It was a recording of a man quietly, slowly breaking. I couldn't watch. I slammed my laptop shut, shoving myself away from the desk like it was on fire. I paced my apartment like a caged animal, bile rising in my throat. This was real, a place where people were collected and cataloged. After what felt like an hour of panicked tears, a cold resolve settled in. I found him. Step 1. Now I had to understand this place. I forced myself back to the laptop and clicked away from the archive. My mouse hovered over the link that read, Live Exhibits. A new page loaded. There was only one entry, a countdown timer, ticking down in red numbers. Exhibit 921C, live broadcast commences in 02:14:37. Below it was a new picture of Alex. Recent. He was standing, his face set in a grim line. He looked defiant. He looked like my Alex, and he was going to be broadcast live to God knows who in just over 2 hours. A chat window pulsed on the right side of the screen, the patron forum. I clicked on it, and the final horrifying piece of the puzzle slammed into place. The patron forum was a live chat, scrolling with terrifying speed. It was full of anonymous users, their names a random jumble of characters. And they weren't just talking, they were bidding. 1.5 ETH for the strobes. Matching that. Add the auditory distortion. 2.0 ETH. Forget that. I want to see the family simulation. 5 ETH. Let's see him break. My mind struggled to process what I was reading. ETH, Ethereum, cryptocurrency. They were bidding with real money. The game wasn't just watching, it was interactive. The patrons were paying to control the exhibit's environment. They were buying the right to torture him. I read about the different packages. It was all psychological warfare. They used sensory deprivation, followed by overwhelming sensory assaults. Strobing lights, piercing sounds, extreme temperatures. The most expensive package was what they called the simulation. The forum posts described it in chilling detail. They used deep-fake technology to project hyper-realistic videos of the subject's loved ones on the walls. Family, friends, saying the most cruel, twisted things imaginable. It was a system designed to dismantle a person's mind, all while an audience of monsters watched and paid for the privilege. The goal, as one patron chillingly explained, wasn't to kill the subject. Not right away. The goal was to break their will to live. The game ended when the subject either gave up or, worse, and the patrons would bet on how long it would take. I felt a surge of pure rage. These weren't people. They were vultures. I looked at the bids. They were climbing. 5, 10, 15 Ethereum. Tens of thousands of dollars. Money I didn't have. A new message popped up from a user named The Director. Patrons, Exhibit 921C is a special one. Subject has shown remarkable resilience. We are introducing a new feature for this broadcast, the final vote. Once the subject's will is broken, patrons will vote on the disposal method. Majority wins, happy bidding. My blood turned to ice. This was the finale. They were going to torture him live and then vote on how he would die. And I was watching it happen, as helpless as he was. I couldn't outbid them. I couldn't pay to keep him safe. The desperation was a physical weight, crushing the air from my lungs. I was going to watch my best friend be torn apart. With the countdown clock mocking me, a single frantic thought clawed through the panic. I couldn't play their game. I couldn't win by their rules. So I had to break it. I had to think like Alex. He was paranoid. He built backdoors into his own systems. If you build a cage, he always said, you'd be a fool not to build your own key. He must have known he was walking into something. He wouldn't have gone without a contingency. The Blackwood cipher, the photo. That was the trail for me. Plan A. But Alex always had a plan B. What if he left something behind? Not for me, but for himself. A weapon, a kill switch, a piece of code hidden in their system, waiting for a trigger. It was an insane long shot, a hope born of pure desperation. But it was all I had. I turned back to the website. I dove back into the patron forum, but now I was looking for technical details. I posed as a new, wealthy patron, asking naive questions. Is the platform secure? I want to ensure my anonymity. Their arrogance was my way in. They bragged. One user, trying to show off, mentioned the site's architecture, how they use decentralized nodes to host the stream, making it impossible to trace. But then he said something that made my heart stop. The chat's a bit janky though. The director says they're patching a command injection vulnerability in the bidding API soon. Amateurs. Command injection. A way to trick the chat system into running a command on the server. A classic vulnerability Alex would have spotted in a second. Could he have found this before he was taken? Could he have built a backdoor, a script lying dormant, waiting for a command only he, or someone who knew him intimately, would know? My mind raced. Our own private language of quotes and ciphers. The countdown was under 10 minutes. The bidding was a frenzy. The family simulation had won. They were going to use deepfakes of his parents, of Mia, to break him. I had to find the trigger phrase, something personal. Then it hit me. A line from a forgotten poet we both loved. A line Alex once said was the perfect description of a kill switch. Let the last light be the first to die. It was poetic, arrogant, so perfectly Alex. But a line of text wasn't a command. I had to guess the syntax. I started typing, my fingers flying, combining the phrase with common command line syntax for a system purge. I was gambling everything on a half-remembered conversation and a brag from an anonymous monster. On my screen, I typed a prayer disguised as code. Sudo sys purge all nodes. Trigger, let the last light be the first to die. Docs wallets, true. It was a complete shot in the dark. The live stream began. The screen filled with the white room. Alex stood in the center. He looked tired, but his jaw was set. He was staring right into the camera, and for a heart-stopping second, I felt like he was looking at me. He had to know I was there. He was counting on me. The chat exploded with jeering comments. The show was starting. The walls of the room flickered. A perfect deepfake of Alex's mother appeared, her face a mask of cold disappointment. The audio kicked in, her voice so perfectly replicated it made me sick. I never loved you. You were always my greatest failure. Alex flinched. A visible tremor went through him. He squeezed his eyes shut. I copied the command string. My heart was a drum against my ribs. The world narrowed to this single moment. This was for everything. For our friendship. For the kid who shared his lunch with me on the first day of school. I pasted the code into the chat box. I hit enter. The message appeared for a split second. A string of gibberish to everyone else. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. The deepfake kept talking. Alex sank to his knees. The patrons were cheering. My heart sank. It failed. A stupid, insane idea. I had failed him. Then, the video feed flickered. A violent stutter. The image of his mother melted into digital artifacts. The audio warped into a deafening screech of static. The chat window froze, and then the entire website went black. A single line of white text appeared. System purge initiated. All data logs wiped. All patron wallets doxed. And then, nothing. The connection was severed. The Bunyan address was dead. Page not found. I tried again and again. The panopticon was gone, as if it had never existed. I sat in the silence of my apartment, staring at a blank screen. The silence was louder than any scream. I had done it. I tore down their house of horrors. But a new, colder fear crept in. I had no idea what a system purge really did. Did it destroy the exhibits along with the data? Was he freed? Or was he just deleted? I had won, but I had no idea what the prize was. I saved him from the monsters, but I didn't know if I had damned him in the process. Days turned into weeks. The silence was absolute. The panopticon never reappeared. There were no news reports, No police press conferences. What could I tell them anyway? That I hacked a mythical website that doesn't exist to save my friend from a ghost story? They'd have locked me in a padded room. I was alone with what I'd done. The guilt and the uncertainty ate at me. Did I save him? Or did my gamble just change how he died? I lie awake at night, seeing his face in that white room, hearing the static as the system died. I never found out what happened to Alex. His family never got a call. He remains a missing person, a ghost in the system. But sometimes late at night I'll get an email from an encrypted, untraceable address. There's no subject, no text, just a single, attached image. It's always a picture of a landmark, a bridge in a city I've never been to, a statue in a park I don't recognize. The pictures are always taken at sunrise. I tell myself it's a coincidence. Spam. But I can't block the sender. Because a small, stubborn part of me, the same part that refused to believe he was gone, wants to believe it's him. Postcards from a new life that I gave him. Or maybe it's not him. Maybe it's them, the ones who built the panopticon. A reminder that they know who I am and what I did. A promise that they're still out there, watching. I went looking for my friend on the dark web, and I'm still not sure if I found him, or if I just lost myself. Pause. The internet is full of dark corners. If you want to hear more stories from the shadows, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. What do you think happened to Alex?